Do you found a skeleton? How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
All right, we are back for Kent with Bent 33, the Hovind in the Woods, with the only YouTube channel that is basically on time every time. Yeah, I'm calling out, throwing mad shade at all the other YouTube channels out there. Get on my level, guys. Nah, whatever, man. And I will say, there was actually a quick question I want to address. Tesla Ranger says, are you going to stream your Star Trek Adventures? So, almost certainly is the answer to that. I am waiting for the actual release date for the next core rulebook for Star Trek Adventures, which is going to be Klingon Empire. And then I have a few people who are all brushing up on their Klingon so that we can have the most authentic Star Trek Adventures Klingon Empire experience imaginable. So, yeah, we're gonna go out and conquer for the Empire or something. I don't know. But let's go over what we're drinking, Bent. Let's make you nice and big on the screen. Hello.
It's raw
Ooh.
gingerberry for all the gingers and the berries out there.
Now, I don't believe there is such a berry as gingerberry. Is this correct?
I don't know. I'm not a berry. But there is probably blueberry juice, yeah.
Okay.
And fresh pressed ginger juice.
Okay.
Also kiwi juice, but they don't mention that on the front. So.
Oh, and already for $4.99 US from Work in Progress. Yes!
Wow.
First live stream. Thank you very much, Work in Progress. Or no, it was Work in Progress. Not Work in Progress. I'm an idiot. Sorry. Work in Progress. That's me. Thank you very much for your super chat. I am having some whiskey ginger ale, into which I have placed 2 frozen grapes, because I have frozen grapes today. And I figured I would toss them in a drink, because, I don't know, why not, right?
Yeah, why not? That'd probably make it tastier.
At the very least, I get some whiskey-soaked grapes at the end.
There you go.
I mean, hey! Yeah, ginger is a 2-word, yeah. Let's see. So, I guess you guys, most of you know the deal, but let's go over quickly our rules here, because here on Kent with Bent, we have some drinking rules, which, by the way, we do not encourage that you follow, because we take no responsibility for any liver damage, property damage, or other negative or positive consequences, for that matter, as a result of drinking with Kent with Bent. So, first, we drink whenever Kent says something. Oh, and then Corporal Anon for 2 says, I still have a debt. And then he says, oh? I'm trying to say it like it's Portuguese or something. Should just tell me, ooh, I know how to pronounce that, man. So, we drink whenever Kent Hovind is just so stupid that we kinda have to. We drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something on his own right that's not just quoting someone else, which doesn't happen much. But I don't think we failed to drink for that reason yet, right? We always do drink for that reason at some point. We also drink when one of the Toho Kaiju comes around, like it just did.
Yeah!
So we drink for Godzilla, we'll drink for Mothra, we'd also drink for Rodan, or, Ghidorah, or Ghidorah, or whatever your preferred pronunciation is. They tend not to show up so much. But that also includes whenever a member super chats and uses one of the 2 current Toho Kaiju emojis that are available only to members of the channel, such as Godzilla and Mothra. If you want to become a channel member, feel free. There's a link in the description. It starts at $1.99. Go ahead. We get a few more members, and we get more emojis. So it's fun, Or don't. That's fine, too. Let's see. We also drink whenever Kent tells a joke, and basically it just completely falls flat, or we don't even notice it was a joke until afterwards. If we manage to laugh at a Kent Hovind joke, though, that's good on Kent. So... Alright, I don't think is there anything else we need to go over before we get this show on the road?
Were there any other rules? Maybe not.
No, I don't think so.
If I think of one, I'll let you know.
Alright.
I think we covered them
Oh,
all.
Lady Lumo just saying, oh, okay, here we go. Drink for the Empire Mothra emoji for $2 from TD Lane. Here we go. Thank you so much, TD Lane. And also, Dave Dalafiore for $1.99 US says, hit like, folks. Agreed. Oh, and Josiah Hansen says, at Dapper Dino, I was just watching Mr. Batman on Modern Day Debate. Pretty sure I'm dumber now. Yeah, I watched a little bit of that, and, yeah.
It was bad.
It was really bad.
It was baffling. I only watched a few minutes, like 20 minutes ago, and I was like, wow. Okay, I know how to say wow. My own wow.
I'm gonna drink for Godzilla.
Wow. It was bad.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing, honestly.
But I did learn something. He is capable of showing up to debates.
Yeah, as it turns out, Mr. Batman can actually show up to a debate. He just doesn't want to show up to mine, I guess. But all right, let's get into this whole Kent Hovind thing. And when last we left off, Kent Hovind was moving away from Islam and into Mormonism for some reason.
I like Lake Limo's comment, Ben should do a curl every time he's supposed to drink, will be swollen after one drink.
Oh, before we actually go, I do want to give a quick preview. Got some more art coming for the Speculative Evolution project. So, yep, that's it's in the works. It's still going to be another hour or so before this image finishes, but it turns out I can stream and render, because the render on the GPU and all the streaming takes up is my CPU and bandwidth. So, different computer resources.
Thanks, Evolution, for helping computers evolve.
Exactly. This is a nice blanket, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Which, by the way, you can get that blanket and other such paraphernalia in a link in the description. But here we go.
I would call it merchandise, but sure.
You know what? Paraphernalia, merchandise.
Wait, what kind of paraphernalia do you have?
T-shirts, baby onesies.
All right.
Blankets.
Just wondering if you had anything else.
No pipes.
No pipes. Okay, now I get it.
Here we go.
Joseph Smith said, there are men living on the moon who dress like Quakers and live to be nearly 1,000 years old. Well, we've been to the moon a bunch of times now. Are there...
So, one thing I want to point out is I don't actually know if Joseph Smith said that. I don't particularly care because I'm not here to defend Mormonism. But his source for that is like some like Mormon women's magazine as reprinted in an anti-Mormon book. Like, that's not exactly a great way to source a Joseph Smith quote. You want to source a Joseph Smith quote, virtually everything he ever wrote is available online from the LDS church. Like, it's not hard to get. You can just check it. Now, maybe when Kent made this, that wasn't the case, but what he should have done is he should have looked up the source in the book he was citing, then checked that source and cited it. But hey, that's just some kind of crazy source methods. But I also want to point out that for $5 US, Vandalia 1990 says, first of all, Godzilla, so we're going to drink for that. Brain damage from hitting your head on your desk from listening to Kent might be possible, so listen modestly. It's true. You might... I also have a Dapper Dino pillow that you can strap to your hand, so that when you hit your head with your hand, it softens the blow. When you're doing your face palming, you're less prone to injury. It's, by the way, it is not medically approved to treat or prevent any disease or condition, including concussion. I'm just saying it might be more comfortable.
It has not been evaluated by the FDA.
No, it has not. Or the NAACP. Or any other alphabets.
Okay.
Quakers up there? This is scientifically inaccurate, okay? He's wrong. Official Mormon doctrine is someday we get to become God.
Does
the Mormons
it matter
teach
to Kent to be scientifically inaccurate? Because he sure seems to be scientifically inaccurate quite a bit.
It matters when other people are scientifically inaccurate that belong to other religions, because then he gets to make fun of them for it.
Okay.
Of course, saying that there are no Quakers, or saying that there are Quakers on the moon, or people who dress like Quakers, I suppose, because even that quote doesn't actually say they were Quakers, so let's be fair. But saying that isn't any more ridiculous, or any less ridiculous, in my opinion, than saying that the Earth is 6,000 years old. So,
is he talking about like a Doctor Who episode, maybe?
That would actually be more fun. Yeah.
Because I feel like that could be from Doctor Who.
Oh, and I like this. So, okay, look at this. This is his citation here. Gospel Principles, page 289 through 293, 1998, by Corporation of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's an actually good reference for this, right? And actually, I've read this before, and if I remember correctly, this is actually an accurate citation. Because, spoiler alerts, I've also read a lot of stuff about Mormonism. What do you know? Oh, and for 199, Dave Dalafiore says, B17 lives matter. Fair enough. So this is how you... Kent, if you ever watch this, I don't know, maybe you'll do like a whack an atheist on me, even though you have no evidence that I'm an atheist. Here's a hint for you. This is how you do citations. You actually give citations to primary sources, not a citation to a book that cited a magazine that cited a thing. That's not how you do it. This is better. And yeah, I will say that Mormonism does have a pretty high version of the exaltation in their soteriology, if you will. Or even if you won't, because that's a technical term. You're wrecked.
Yeah, get wrecked.
We are Adam, or God once was. God used to be a man, and as God is, we shall be. And they think Adam became God. So when they pray, Heavenly Father, they're praying...
Take a drink. Okay, look. I'm not a Mormon. So, if there are any Mormons in the chat, please at me and feel free to correct me. And actually, we're going to hear the next bit of thing because I'm pretty sure I know what Kent is about to say. And then we'll pause it and continue on.
To Adam.
Yeah. So, he said that when Mormons pray to God, they're praying to Adam because Adam became God. No. So, the idea is that, yes, Jehovah, who is the God of our planet or maybe universe, there's a little bit of confusion there in Mormonism, was in fact immortal at some point. And he was exalted on his world or universe or whatever. Again, like I said, there's a little bit of debate there. And then he went on to organize our world. And Adam is the first human who went from the premortal existence into the mortal existence as an actual physical human. And the plan from the beginning was that Adam would in fact eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thereby falling, but allowing the immortal spirits in the pre-existence to enter into a mortal time of testing. And then Adam, I actually don't know what the stance is on whether or not he was then later exalted to a status similar to Jehovah, but even if he were, he would have gone on to organize his own world. He would not have stayed and become the Elohim or whatever of this one. That is not what Mormonism is saying. Now, what Mormonism is saying is in fact something that Kent would strongly disagree with, right? Like, it is not in line with traditional Protestant, or basically traditional Christianity at all, in terms of their soteriology and whatnot. Oh yeah, it's Elohim, not Jehovah. Yeah, you're right. My bad on that one.
How dare you?
I know. But yeah, so Adam is not Elohim, he's not God the Father in Mormonism, he's not Jesus in Mormonism, he's not Satan in Mormonism, he's Adam, he's a separate character from all of them. They are not to be conflated. Yeah. Here we go.
There's some good books we offer. Here you can get on Mormonism. The Secret History of the Mormon Church is excellent. This shows some of the history of how people have been killed trying to leave Mormonism. Because if you start speaking out against Mormonism or try to leave the religion, I mean in the old days especially, you'd get killed. They just find you dead someplace in the middle of the, desert. If you want to read more on that.
All right. I am currently unaware of any credible cases of people being killed for Mormon apostasy, at least basically since after the application of Utah to become a state, which was basically the end of the official kind of kingdom of the Mormons with the official theocracy and whatnot. When they started to apply for statehood, it's also when the Mormons and other U.S. populations started having actual wars. So, yeah, there's some weird history going on in the early days of Utah as its own little territory, basically being run by the church. And, yeah, in that time, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some killings for apostasy. Although, as far as I know, it has never been an actual official policy of the LDS Church that apostates are going to be killed. But yeah, I'm sure at some point some people were. But as far as I know, that is not something that tends to happen anymore. And yeah. So Lady Luma says it was once legal to kill Mormons in some states, I believe, at Daberdino. I don't believe it was ever technically legal. But I believe the situation was similar to a sort of a lynching situation, where it was unlikely that you would be prosecuted, and if you were, it was unlikely that you'd be found guilty in some areas. Because one of the things is, I don't want to diminish the degree to which Mormons were persecuted in a lot of places. They were extremely harshly persecuted in many places in the United States for a very long time. There's a reason that they had to flee into basically a salt flat, which is like the least hospitable place that you can imagine. Like, it was not easy to be a Mormon in basically any parts of the United States. That's why they settled in such harsh regions. Really, not just in Utah, but even north and south of there. There are even long-standing, well over 100-year-old, nearly 100% Mormon Anglophone communities in northern Mexico that fled persecution in the United States and went into Mexico. So, yeah, there are populations of Mormons in Mexico right now that are descended from refugees from the United States. I don't know that it was ever actually legal to kill them anywhere. I don't believe it was. For instance, just the killing of Joseph Smith was itself an extrajudicial killing. People broke into the jail where he was being held for destruction of property and assault after the destruction of a newspaper building and printing press. And the killings there were not legal. Now, Joseph Smith also killed a fair few people in that fight. There was a bit of a gunfight because someone smuggled a gun into him, but, you know, it's a whole mess. So, well, my goodness, I did not actually expect to take a deep dive into what I remember about Mormon history. My goodness.
Well, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really interesting history going on in Mormonism. So we're not talking, Bob Knob, by the way, is here. We're not talking specifically about Utah, Bob Knob. We're just talking about Mormon history, and Kent Hovind is bad at Mormon theology, unsurprisingly, because he's bad at almost everything. Except beating that kid.
And going to jail.
Yes, he is good at going to jail. He's also bad at being in jail, because, here's a hint, Kent. Prison phones are recorded, so don't talk about getting revenge on the prosecutors over the prison phones. And for $1.99 from Dave Dalafiore, Donnie and Marie will die of embarrassment. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's get a little bit more Kent in here, because I'm tired of rambling about Mormon history. I want to ramble about Mormon history with more direction.
Mormonism, a way that seemeth right, is also good. It's nothing but questions for Mormons. There's one we offer by Thomas Hines, answers to my Mormon...
Did the video pause for you or something?
No.
Okay, because on my screen it just paused, and it didn't in my actual window playing the video, but it did in this Discord window, so sorry about that, everybody.
Friends, if you want to read up on that. There's a good book, the red one, Mormonism, Mama and Me. This is the more gentle approach. It's just a grandma type, hey, honey, you know, do you really believe that? Now, why is that? It's kind of a softer, gentler approach to reaching Mormons, if you want to. The ultimate authority on Mormons that I have seen is Gerald and Sandra Tanner.
I want to say, apparently, according to Monk Mayfair, it looks like there may have been a Mormon execution order in Missouri, Executive Order 44, commonly known as the Mormon Extermination Order, was an executive order issued on October 27, 1838. Well, all right. That would be definitely interesting. I would imagine that if actually brought before a judge... Oh, drink for Godzilla. That would be... You'd be hard-pressed to find the law that you're enforcing by issuing that executive order. Because one of the things about executive orders is that they are supposed to be issued in order to enforce a particular law. Basically, the idea behind an executive order is, there's a law, here's how the executive wants it enforced. Because just having a law doesn't tell you how to enforce it. So executive orders are supposed to clear that up where there's some question. So I believe if that were challenged in a court, I think you would be hard-pressed to find which law that was. That being said, it does mean that if it weren't challenged, it basically was de facto legal to kill Mormons in Missouri at that time. I was certainly not aware of that law, or not law, but executive order. And I would be interested if someone can forward along something about that, because that is something Oh, it's part of the 1838 Mormon War? Okay, that actually does make sense. Yeah, because, like I said, there were actually essentially wars waged in by the Mormons, between Mormons and other territories in the United States. So, that does make sense that it would be part of the war. Okay. But yeah, I would very much like to see that sent to me with the timelines and whatnot. Because like I said, I'm far from an expert on Mormon history. I'm just someone who has read a fair bit about it, and almost entirely from sympathetic courses. Or sources. Most of my reading on Mormon history has come from Mormon sources. So, yeah. Although I did try to branch out a little bit, especially regarding things like the supposed martyrdom of Joseph Smith, which you could call it a martyrdom. It doesn't meet typical Christian standards for martyrdom, but,
In Utah, Salt Lake City, utlm.org, Utah Lighthouse Mission. This is real fine print of everything you ever wanted to know and a whole lot more on Mormonism. It is phenomenal, the stuff that the Mormons believe. Joseph Smith forged the book. Somebody else had taken a book to the printer to get printed. It was a Baptist who got mad at his church, and he wrote a story about, it was a novel actually. Well, Joseph Smith apparently got that, the draft copy. We have on CD available here if you want to get it, the actual photocopies of the pages that he took to the printer and said, this is what I want printed. Supposed to be the most perfect book on earth. He said he got these special seer stones that he would put these golden plates that he got from the angel Moroni. He put them in a hat, he'd look in there with the seer stone, and he had a curtain beside him, and he would read to his friend, Hiram, I believe it was, who wrote down everything.
All right, so the story about the seer stone and the hat is broadly accurate. The curtain is a sometimes present part of the story. Other times it doesn't seem to be. One of the things you got to remember is that the dictation of the Book of Mormon took place over a fairly long period of time. So the exact conditions under which the translation was being done varied. I am not aware of any supposed photocopies, which would have had to have been taken long after the actual submission for publication of the text. But, I mean, it's possible that those original copies of the submission text were preserved and then later photocopied. I doubt it, because that would make it very difficult to preserve the actual texts. One of the things is, if you do any first-hand historical research, right? Like, for one of my classes, I had to go to the Boston Public Library Department of Rare Books and Manuscripts and actually get my hands on the original handwritten notes of a historical figure who I was researching. And then also try to read his handwriting, which, fortunately, he actually had fairly neat handwriting, unlike some of the people he was corresponding to, whose letters were also in there, who were much harder to read. But, in that area, you can't take your cell phone in, or any cameras. And the reason is because flash photography is bad for the preservation of the ink on the various documents they have. Because, well, sunlight fades things. Like, you ever see a car that's just been out in the sun for too long, and the paint is all faded and whatnot? It's been out in the sun for like 30 years. Yeah. Bright light will do the same thing to ink on books. So, historical artifacts, even when they're made of paper, tend not to be photocopied. They tend to be carefully photo-scanned nowadays, which is a complex process, or you have to set up nice, soft, even lighting, and you have to give this long exposure time, relatively long exposure time, so that you expose the paper to minimal light and things like that, and there's a whole process behind it. So, I doubt that there are photocopies of it. But further, the whole story about the Book of Mormon being plagiarized from a novel is iffy. I don't know of any mainstream Mormon or non-Mormon scholars, of course no Mormon scholars, but non-Mormon scholars who think that this is a 100% yes. So, it's it's not impossible, but it's certainly not as cut and dry as Kent Hovind is making it out to be, is what I'm saying here.
When he got done writing all this through the curtain, Hiram never got to see the golden. Nobody ever got to see the golden plates. Nobody, except Joseph. He told people about it. Okay.
That's true. I'm gonna take a drink. So the witnesses, so there are supposed witnesses to the golden plates, but all of them, on further questioning, said they saw them with spiritual eyes. And when asked if they were physically in their field of view with their regular old flesh and blood eyes, the answer was always no. What exactly it means to see something with spiritual eyes is something that's a little bit iffy.
Yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
But... Monk Mayfair says, inventor Chester Carlson used static electricity created with a handkerchief, light, and dry powder to make the first photocopy on October 22nd, 1938. Definitely not a photocopy. So I will say that Kent did not say it was a contemporaneous photocopy. So, for instance, let's say in 1827, right? Someone submitted a manuscript for publication to a book printer. And then in 1955, that manuscript is still extant, and it could then be photocopied. So, like, it's possible for that manuscript to have been photocopied. It just wasn't photocopied when it was submitted. It would have had to have been, saved and photocopied much later. So I'm not going to say it's impossible for there to be such a photocopy. I'm unaware of any. It seems unlikely that it would have been photocopied, but it's not impossible. So I'm going to give Kent and this story, because I don't think it's original to him, I'm going to give the story a little bit of benefit of the doubt and say that the photocopying aspect isn't the problem with it.
There were no golden plates. But he said he translated it through this special seer stone because it was written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Reformed ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Can't forget the reformed part, Kent.
He's reading the text of this book that he stole from the printer, apparently. Okay.
Maybe.
And when he got all done writing it, they took it to the printer to get printed. They said it's the most perfect book ever written. It came straight from God. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of mistakes in it.
Well, first, I'm going to take a quick drink because no, it's not supposed to be straight from God. The Book of Mormon, much like the Bible, purports to be written by various people who you can consider inspired by God. But unlike, say, the Quran, which Kent was talking about last episode, there's no idea that the Book of Mormon is in whole simply the direct dictation of God. It is the recordings of people who are supposed to have lived in the Americas as they were writing things down for historical records and whatnot. So the internal narrative of the Book of Mormon is very similar in terms of its composition to the Bible. Now, I will say the Bible is an authentically ancient text, right? It actually was written thousands of years ago. The Book of Mormon just wasn't. It was composed sometime in the 19th century. So it is not what it purports to be, but it's also not what Kent is purporting it to be. Or it doesn't purport to be what Kent says it does.
Corrections. If you want to see the actual one, call our office. We'll have the CD available. I got it in my office stack up in Pavel. We can produce those on Mormonism. So I'm not anti-Mormon. I'm for truth and against error, and what they teach is error. We've got a ton of stuff on Mormonism if you want to read it. Lucy Macksmith said, Joseph was running through the woods at the top of his speed for 3 miles with the gold plates tucked under his arm. And 3 people came out, and he had to knock 3 different people down. While he's running with these plates, full blast, with the plates under his arm, golden plates, 3 people attacked him. He knocked them down with one hand and kept running to the house. The size of the golden plates, this is a picture of what they would have been. This is one that the Tanners have in their museum, of the golden plates of the size that Joseph Smith said they were. This is out of lead. Now, gold is a lot heavier than lead. The golden...
Is gold a lot heavier than lead? I'm not actually sure about that. I know lead is heavier, so let's go with gold density. Gold density, and then we'll get another one with lead density. Now this is going to be subjective, right? So gold is 19.3 grams per cubic centimeter. Lead is 11.4 grams per cubic. Yeah, actually, I would say that's pretty significant. I mean, that's not quite twice, but that's more than 50% heavier. So you know what? I'll take a drink for Kent getting that right. That's fair. Oh, I will accept that, Kent. I'm not a chemist or a physicist or anything, so like, I don't know. But yeah, no, I think it's fair to say that gold is significantly heavier than lead, and I would much rather pick up that thing if it were made of lead than gold. Although I'd much rather do neither. So yeah, fair enough, Kent. Good job. Although I do love that at this point we trust everything Ken says so little that even when he just says X is heavier than Y, we're like, is it though, Ken?
I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong. He happens to be right.
Right. Which is why I drank for it, because you know what? You got it right. And you weren't just quoting someone.
Plates that size, the dimensions were given several times, and Joseph Smith told them how wide they were, etc. They would weigh 230 pounds. Paul, you lift weights a lot. Can you run with 230 pounds under one arm? No. They have competition in New York every year. I forget what they call it, but they bring all these bodybuilders and huge muscle guys in and say, let's see who can run 3 miles carrying these plates under their arm. They got a huge prize for anybody who can do it. The farthest anybody's made it with under one arm is 75 feet.
I don't actually care if they do or not.
I mean, I've seen like World's Strongest Man shows, and they don't run with weights under their arms. They throw really heavy things really high, and they pull very heavy trucks.
I will say, carrying something under one arm is a tricky proposition, right? Because you're going to be off balance and like, I don't know. It feels like, look, I'm not disagreeing with Kent that the story of Joseph Smith is far-fetched. Like, I'm not disputing that, right? Like, it is kind of a silly story. And, yeah, I'm not going to dispute with Kent on that. But the problem is that, like, Noah's Ark is at least as silly. Actually, no, it's considerably more silly. So, Oh, and for $5 from Vandalia 1998, how much would that gold be worth in that year, let alone this year? I need a new computer, so just wondering. So 200, like, what's the current ounce price of gold?
That would be worth a lot of money.
So, price of gold right now is, let's see. It's almost $2,000 per ounce. So 2,000 230. So you're looking at somewhere around a bit over $7 million worth of gold. Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing super exact calculations because I'm just assuming a troy ounce is like about an ounce, and then I'm just multiplying the approximate price of 2,000 times 16 ounces times 230. But yeah, you're looking at around 7 million-ish, give or take a few $100 million. You could easily retire on the Book of Mormon's original copy, is what I'm saying, if you just melted it down. Although, actually, given that if it existed, it would be an artifact that it would be almost immeasurably valuable for numerous reasons. If you actually had it, you would be much better auctioning it off, not melting it down. Oh, is it 12 troy? Yeah, okay, 12. So let's fix that, because I don't know about troy ounces, because I'm not in the metals market.
Yeah, you don't know everything, do you?
So, okay, we're closer to 5.5 million, but still, you would still be much better off auctioning it as an artifact than using it for its melt weight. Like, using something like that for its melt weight would be the worst option you had, by far. You could probably get hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, maybe not hundreds. You could get tens of millions on an auction for that, probably. Just because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would probably pay exorbitant amounts. And one of the things people don't realize is just how much real estate and how many businesses are owned officially by the church as like stockholders and whatnot. If you're in downtown Salt Lake City, which by the way is a nice place. I mean, I like Salt Lake City. But yeah, a lot of that real estate there is actually just owned by the church, and they collect rent on it, and they own a lot of the businesses. They own several hotels in the area. So yeah.
That's walking, carrying 230 pounds under one arm. Good luck, okay? I don't buy that story that Joseph Smith told. I think he's lying, okay? Questions. Why did Joseph Smith try to join the Methodist Church in 1828, when in 1820 the Lord told him all of the churches were wrong and they were an abomination? Why? just questions. The book Mormonism, A Way That Seemeth Right.
I love that, just asking questions. Have you seen that episode of South Park where Cartman is just asking questions? He's like, did Wendy murder a homeless man and leave him in the gutters? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. It's like, okay. Because that's, who is it that does that a lot? I think Alex Jones does that. He just says something ridiculous. And I'm just asking questions. It's like, okay, but you're clearly implying that you think the answer might be yes. And there's just no evidence. It's like, did Kent Hovind, intentionally drown a child in Dinosaur Adventureland? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. I mean, no, there's no evidence or reason to think he did. It was negligence, not murder.
Is mostly just questions. It's here, and here we go. Now, I would differ with these guys on several things, okay? I'm not promoting everything they believe, but this book is well done. It's just simply questions to ask Mormons. Like, why does your one book say you have to have more than one wife to be saved, and your other book says if you have more than one wife, you're damned? Which is it? Just obvious contradictions in the Mormon religion. And again, I'm not anti-
Yes, from Bob Nov. Does Obama eat babies? Just asking questions. Yep, it's just a question.
Mormon, I'm for truth and against error. Why weren't the three witnesses in the book to the Book of Mormon taken to Joseph Smith's house and show him the golden plates? Why did he only take them to the woods and they saw the plates in a vision?
Okay, I'm actually going to take a drink because I agree with Kent. It's a good question. Oh, and we got a drink for Godzilla. Oh yeah, it was Glenn Beck. He does that too. Just asking questions. Yeah, it's... Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Bent's gone. F's in the chat for Bent. Oh, he's back.
We're back!
Alright. Which, by the way, Bent, after this, are you going to be streaming to your Twitch channel so we can watch you play Destroy All Humans?
No, that's why my internet's freaking out, is because this download's not going so well.
Oh, how much longer do you have?
Because I'm downloading it. It says 37 minutes, but it's also acted real funky. Cut me off for about a minute and a half there.
Well, I think you still have a good chance, because we're going to go for, what, another hour 20 or so?
Yeah, we'll see.
Alright, well, hopefully, everybody, show how much you want Bent to stream Destroy All Humans via enthusiasm in chat. I don't know. I can't come up with anything. So yeah. Alright, here we go. Let's get some more Kenton.
Nobody ever saw those golden plates. The Book of Mormon says the final battle between the Nephites and Lamanites was on the hill Cumorah in New York. Well, there had been nothing ever found there. No evidence at all found of a battle where millions died. There are a couple of great DVDs out now called The Bible versus the Book of...
Actually, so I'm going to take another drink because Kent is also right about something. There is zero unambiguous archaeological evidence supporting any claims in the Book of Mormon. So, which is not something I can say about the Bible. There are, in fact, various bits of archaeology that do, in fact, support some parts of the Bible. There are other parts of the Bible that also have no archaeological evidence, like Noah's flood, but, it is a problem, and it's actually a problem that has become such a problem that there is a little bit of a cottage industry that has popped up at various times, creating fake Mormon artifacts. Take a drink for Godzilla. Man, I'm popular with someone. I wonder who it might be.
There would be no way of knowing.
I mean, there is. I could just check. But,
that might
so,
be a way, yeah.
Ben, have you ever heard of the little sleepy town of Los Lunas, New Mexico?
Sounds familiar.
It's familiar to me. I've been there quite a few times. It's a really nice Mexican restaurant that is converted from basically a mansion, which means the floor plan is crazy. It's like a maze in there, but really nice. They have nice empanadas. It's good stuff. Anyway, get the green chili because you're in New Mexico. If you're ever in New Mexico and you don't get the green chili, I don't know why you exist. Just get the green chili.
Just do it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Anyway, but one time, way back in like the 1930s or something, I don't know, don't quote me on that time frame, but someone found a little stone inscribed in archaic Hebrew with the Ten Commandments on it. And this was held up as evidence of, the story about ancient Hebrews coming over from the, ancient Israel to the New World on a boat as described in Book of Mormon. Of course it was... Oh! Drink for Godzilla. Of course, it was a forgery, but the really cool thing about it was that when I learned about that thing existed, I was sitting in a hotel room in Los Lunas, and I was like, wait a minute, Los Lunas, New Mexico, that's right here. Like, that trash dump is like 3 miles that away.
Yeah.
So that was just... Sorry, I just wanted to tell that little story because it was really weird to me. I was sitting in Los Lunas in a hotel room. But yeah. Also, the Los Lunas Wild Wings, super slow service. Don't go there unless you're willing to wait a good 45 minutes for your wings. But here we go. More Kent.
A Mormon and DNA versus the Book of Mormon.
Nope, take a drink.
They're in the library if you want to check those out. Okay. According to the claims of Mormon, the Lord led 3 groups of people to America from the Middle East. The Jaredites, the Nephites, and the Molochites. There's no evidence.
Not quite, Kent. Those 3 groups of people split up after the original landing in the Old World, in the New World, by the original Hebrews who fled the persecution of the Babylonian Empire coming in. So he's kind of wrong. He's mostly wrong, because those were post-landing splits that happened after various people went away and some people broke certain covenants, and it's all very complicated, and if I'm being frankly honest, it is really boring. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Book of Mormon is a riveting read. A lot of it is just boring. It's tough to get through. It's kind of like sitting down and trying to read the Quran from beginning to end. Do not do that. Read the first chapter, then just read it in reverse order, honestly. It's going to be much easier. That's the simplest way to read the Quran that I know of that will actually let you manage to get through it. Because by the time you're ready to tackle Surah 2, Surah al-Baqarah, you'll be used to how horribly boring it is, and you'll have gotten that in slowly increasing doses. I don't have a recommended order for reading the Book of Mormon, but do not just sit down and try to read it in order. There's probably some like guides out there. Start with stuff with like battles and stuff. I don't know. I have a really tough time getting through the Book of Mormon. I'm sorry. It's just boring. It's not well written. It's not compelling in its narrative in most places. Sorry, Mormons out there. I know you like it, but I just cannot get into it for any entertainment purposes, which is not true for large sections of the Bible. I actually find large sections of the Bible quite compelling. One of my favorite books as just like a work of literature is Ruth. I really like the book of Ruth. I think it's an excellent story. I think it has compelling narrative. There's a lot of stuff in like Kings and Chronicles that are very interesting reads. It's a bit dry, but like you can get into it as a narrative. The Gospel. Oh, take a drink for Godzilla. The Gospels, especially Luke, you can get into as an entertaining read. Like you can be compelled by a lot of stuff in the Bible. I just have a really hard time doing the same thing with the Book of Mormon. Yeah. Oh well.
Evidence of any of these ever been found? Nothing. There is no archaeological evidence to back up the Book of Mormon. So if you want to study Mormonism, I'd recommend those 2 DVDs that just came out in 2005 about the serious problems with the Book of Mormon. And again, there are millions.
Oh, we actually had a question from TD Lane. What's the best way to read the Bible? So that's a little tricky. I would recommend read Genesis, read Exodus, Leviticus and Deuteronomy you can come back to later. I would say then read some of the historical books in whatever order appeals to you. So like read Judges, then read like Chronicles and Kings and whatnot. I would drink again. I would say skip over the major and minor prophets at first. Get to the Gospels, then read some of the shorter epistolary works from the New Testament. Then it's time to start mixing in some stuff like Leviticus and Deuteronomy and the major and minor prophets, as well as some of the longer form epistolary stuff from the New Testament. That would be my recommendation, because if you do it in that order, you're going to get the narrative roughly in order, which will help a lot in terms of trying to keep track of stuff. And this is, of course, assuming the 66 book Protestant canon, which is the most common canon used in the United States. If you want to go with the wider canon, then sure, add in like the Maccabees and whatnot, and the Book of Esther and stuff. So that's, I mean, you can read those if and when you want. But that's what I would say. And save Revelation for last because it's kind of trippy. So just leave it at the end where it is actually in the Bible in terms of the order of the books. That's what I would say. But that's just sort of the off the top of my head recommendation. There are also places where you can get the Read a Bible in a Year reading program, where they tell you what to read each day, and it doesn't all just go in a row. It kind of bounces around a little bit so that you hit themes as you go through the year. Those can be good if that's what if that's what you want to do. I will say, actually, there is in most printed versions of the Quran a little marker called a juz, and I pronounced that wrong because I don't currently want to try to do the retroflex consonant because I am lazy. But those are 1/30ths of the Quran, and they're designed so that you can read the Quran every 30 days. It's really boring to go that way, but at least it's a structure that's built into most printed editions of the Quran. So you can go with that too if you're trying to get the Quran in 30 days. And one thing to remember about the Quran is it's about the size of the New Testament, which itself is way shorter than the rest of the Bible. So the Quran is actually a fairly short book. You can get through it easily in 30 days. I mean, it will require dedication. Like, you'll have to spend an hour or so a day reading it, but 30 hours you can read the Quran. I promise you. Unless you just can't read, in which case, I don't know. Learn to read. Let's see, from Vandelli 1998 for $5. If Mormons are YEC, which I don't actually believe is an official position of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'm not sure though. Then how fast did they have to get to America after the Ark if they got here in 2200 BC with a Mothra emoji, which means time to drink? So I actually don't believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are actually young Earth. Oh, and Godzilla. So, I actually believe that they would probably feel reasonably justified in accepting sort of the general scholarly consensus for the time frame of biblical events, in terms of like old Earth and stuff, at least as far as biblical events that we can reasonably well verify. Like, we know the Babylonian exile was a real thing, right? We have archaeological evidence for it. We can't say the same thing for, say, the Exodus or the conquest of Canaan by Joshua. Like, there just isn't evidence of that. The archaeological evidence right now says that the Hebrews were a group of people that emerged within the Canaanite populations and established themselves as culturally and religiously distinct fairly early on, and then grew in power over time and established a kingdom, and that King David was probably an actual historical figure. The degree to which his historicity matches up with his description in the Bible is still very much open in terms of the archaeology. There's very little written records that we have from that time. But basically, from the point of David on, it seems like the narrative of the Bible corresponds reasonably well in the Old Testament, at least, to what's going on in the archaeological record for the area. And so, because of that, I think the Mormon Church could reasonably just say that, oh yeah, all the dates that the scholars are giving us, those kind of work. But one of the problems that you get there is that there's obvious signs of human inhabitation in the New World for long before that, right? So one of the things that you'll notice in various editions of the Book of Mormon is that they have various language saying that not the only ancestors of the Native Americans are Jews from the Old World, even though that's what the Book of Mormon narrative seems to indicate. If you read through the Book of Mormon, it seems like these Hebrews from Jerusalem land in the New World, and it's unpeopled. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has kind of had to walk that back, because that clearly can't be true. And in more recent editions of the Book of Mormon, it says that these ancient Hebrews are among the ancestors. It used to say they were the principal ancestors, and before that I believe it actually said they were the ancestors of the Native Americans. So, and of course, the genetics has not borne that out. There are no genetic markers in Native American populations indicating that any of them have any Jewish or even more broadly Middle Eastern descent. They're much more closely related to Eastern Europeans, basically. The Chinese are much more closely related to Native Americans than the Jews are, is basically what it comes down to. Much, much more closely related. So.
I think like 10 million people now follow Mormonism.
Maybe.
Some very good, sincere, honest, intelligent people who have just been absolutely duped, deceived, tricked, lied to. Why would Joseph Smith admonish his people not to drink wine or strong drink, and then attempt to construct a bar in the mansion house, and only reneged when his wife Emma declared, either that bar goes or I go?
Okay, so one of the things is this ties into the word of wisdom, right? The word of wisdom is the reason that Mormons don't drink tea or coffee or drink alcohol. And so when the word of wisdom was first given, it was not a blanket prohibition on such things. If you actually read it, it says that those things should be consumed in moderation. It does ban the consumption of tobacco. It says that the only proper use for tobacco is as medicine for cattle. And in case you don't know, if you feed tobacco leaf to cattle, they will vomit. So you can use it as a, an agent to get your cattle to vomit if you think they've gotten into something that they shouldn't have. So, according to the word of wisdom, you can still grow tobacco as long as you're using it as cow medicine, I guess. I feel like nowadays, most veterinarians would recommend other options for getting your cows to vomit, but what do I know? I'm not a veterinarian. I'm just a veteran. Oh.
Heyo.
But, yeah, it wasn't...
You were a dinosaur.
Well, I was a dinosaur who worked for the Navy.
Oh, gross.
I know.
Say that word.
I'm sorry. There goes the PG-13 rating.
There goes the PG-13 rating.
But the word of wisdom did not end up with the what we have now, where there's just a total ban on alcohol and coffee and tea, until much later. So it's actually not entirely inconsistent for Joseph Smith to build a bar. So yeah, there you go. I don't actually even know that I trust the citation. I'm just saying, if it's true, it's actually not that crazy.
Why is he doing that? Bruce McConkie said, thus, the names, titles of signify our Lord is the only Son of the Father in the flesh. Christ was begotten by an immortal Father in the same way that mortal men are begotten by mortal fathers. Is that correct?
Hold up. Hold up.
Hold up.
Let me get there. Goodness. What am I doing? Where was I just now?
I don't know what to do. Just click play.
I can't. I just screwed it up. Give me a second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Dinosaurs.
I know. I'm really bad at this. I'm sorry, guys. I needed to check something on his source. Okay. This is... Goodness. Alright, 1446 or so is basically where I need to go. So, sorry about that, guys. I need to get to 14, slightly before 46.
He was born in the same personal, real, and literal...
Okay. But, do you see... Ken Hovind's citation?
I don't remember what that means, but I don't think it means what he thinks it means.
It means same source as above.
Yeah.
So, some point, Ken Hovind found this in some book somewhere, and he turned to the index so he could get a citation. And it said Ibid, page 742, and he didn't bother to copy down the citation above. He just put in Ibid.
I'm gonna look up the book Ibid and see if I can find it.
Actually, what you'll probably find is an essay by I don't remember which author it was, but it was a fictional biography of this ancient. It's a fictional biography of this supposed like Roman historian Ibidus, and how he wrote about so many different things that scholars and students still cite him to this day all over the place. He cited Ibid. No, you know what? That's my cue to drink the rest of this drink.
Drink the rest. All right.
And then go get another one while you guys go on intermission. Because, oh man, I don't know that I can really handle that one. That's just... I love that. That's like a high school mistake. Like, literally. That's the kind of thing where you have your high school teacher come in and say, like, gently, like, okay, Kent, I know that you cited Ibid, page 742, and that's probably what it said in your book, but here's what that means. I'm marking it wrong. Don't worry, you didn't fail, but next time, now you'll know. That's the kind of mistake we're talking about here. So yeah, here's an intermission video while I down this drink and get another one. I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated, and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon, or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season.
Oh, Nani? Dare? Oh, Gojira desu ka? Hai, Gojira-san. Hai.
Alright, we are back now that I've unmuted myself. And Ben Hovind is back too. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but just... Okay, citing Ibid, it's bad. Just don't cite Ibid unless you actually have reason to. Yeah. But and here's the thing, right? You can cite Ibid in like not an appendix, but like in a endnotes, right? So like you cite the same paper or book or whatever like 5 times in a row, great. Ibid, page number, fine. There's no reason to ever do that in a PowerPoint because the whole point of Ibid, right, is that you get to look at the top of that whatever page it is or whatever and easily find the citation. Since you can't do that in a PowerPoint, you should never, ever, ever cite Ibid, even if it's the same citation as your previous slide. Just don't do it, because people can't immediately go up and check. So, yeah. And, of course I can translate Gojiri's Atheist Linguist. What do you think this is? This is an amateur hour. This is the Kent with Ben show, where I've translated real-time Old English, Arabic, Hebrew, Greek. Like, come on.
Klingon?
Have I done that on the show, though?
I think so. I think you have.
It's possible.
Everyone go back and rewatch all the episodes of Kent with Ben.
Right now.
Right now, and then come back and let us know.
Don't do that. Alright, here we go. Let's get some more Kent in.
Sense that any mortal son is born to a mortal father. That's what the Mormons teach. Now remember, from the time forth and forever, Jesus Christ was not begotten by the Holy Ghost. It says in the book Journal of Discourses. Mormonism is not a Christian religion.
I would just like to point out that the Jesus not being begotten by the Holy Ghost, but rather by the Father through the Holy Ghost, is actually pretty standard Christian theology. So I don't actually know why this particular thing is his big thing. Now I get it. He's saying that like he's objecting to the story that God the Father came down in bodily form and actually impregnated Mary in the rather conventional manner, which then of course begs the question about the whole virginity thing. But you know,
it's a cult in every sense of the word. There are all kinds of errors in what they teach. We'll cover more on that in our college class. What about Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, we could spend...
Oh, goody! We're going to get into the JWs too. My goodness. Oh, there's Godzilla. I just want to point out, this is the Q&A to Kent Hovind's Creation Science Seminar Series, which at no point actually made Mormonism, Islam, or Jehovah's Witnesses a major topic of discussion. So I
what he's talking about is creation science.
Right. I feel like at some point Kent Hovind was just like, I want to bag on the Mormons and the Muslims and the J-dubs. Let's just shove in a bunch of crap at the end. I think that's basically what we're listening to now. But as someone who likes religious history, I find it interesting enough to talk about. So sorry, I'm subjecting it to you. Oh, and Beach Price says Islam says the angel Gabriel blew up Mary's skirt. Basically, yeah.
Pretty much.
That is basically it. Because one thing that a lot of people don't know who aren't Muslims or people who've studied Islam is that the Quran actually says that Gabriel came down to announce the birth of Jesus to Mary, which agrees broadly with the Gospels, and then that she conceived without actually having any man having sex with her as a virgin birth. So the Quran actually agrees with the Bible on the matter of the virgin birth broadly. So yeah, it's an interesting little thing there.
2 days on Jehovah's Witnesses. I just recommend you get the book, Answers to My Jehovah's Witness Friends. There are other ministries that deal just with that. There's a good little pamphlet you can get, 15 Reasons Why I'm Not a Jehovah's Witness. Here's the address on the screen. You can get McGregorMinistries.org. There are people who have taken, God has led it on their heart to, witness to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're very...
Hold on. So, for Godzilla so loved the world that he gave his only giant lizard son, Jesuszilla, who died in Japan a couple years ago, the Book of Mormon as sold by Kent. By the way, I would just like to add that Godzilla's son is Manila, and that little thing can die for the sins of whomever. I don't care as long as it dies. Which, by the way, actually, Bent, our next Godzilla movie that we have to watch is Son of Godzilla. You're going to get introduced to Godzilla's one and only son.
Spoilers.
I mean, it was called Son of Godzilla.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was his one and only son.
Well, okay, you could argue that the Son of Godzilla from the Heisei series isn't the same one, but it's a different continuity, so who cares?
Sincere, really duped. One of the craziest religions on the planet has got to be Jehovah's Witness. As I go speak on creation and evolution, and especially when I do debates, there's always somebody during Q&A time at the university that says, there are contradictions in the Bible. As a brand new Christian, age 16, I went to the Methodist church camp one more time, because I'd been going to the Baptist church, but at the Methodist church camp, where I had been going before, the counselor sat us boys down on the bed and said, hey guys, who are you? You know, how old are you? Where do you live? Etc. And we told him our names. We're all sitting around in the bunks there.
That's where Kent Hovind got his taste for doxing people. It's because some camp counselor tried to get information to dox him when he was a little kid. That's Dapper Dino Kent Hovind headcanon right there.
Works for me.
He said, well, my name is, whatever it was, George or something.
No. So Bob Knob quickly asks, when are you doing Godzilla watching at Dapper Dino? So, okay, I'm going to explain a movie night real quick. So, Beethoven and I and his brother and a few other people, we have occasional, or I don't know. We have not infrequent movie nights, right? And we have a wheel that randomly selects what we will watch. And one of the things that is persistently on the wheel is just the next Godzilla movie. And because there's like 50 of them, we basically never get to take that off the wheel because there's always the next Godzilla movie. And the one we just watched was Godzilla vs. Ebirah, or Horror of the Deep, or whatever you want to call it, because most of them have different things. So, Bent, let's try to remember to let Bob Knob know next time that we land on a Godzilla movie, so he can come and watch it with us. So that's what we'll do. It's on the personal Discord server that we have, because it's not a open thing. It's just, you know, for a small group of people, we all like to do this.
It's a very, very exclusive club.
Yes. If you're
very exclusive.
Yeah, if you're not already invited, you probably won't be. No offense. It's just that I can't have all 3,000 whatever of my subscribers open to...
Well, it's my brother's channel anyway. So
well, there's that too.
His decision who gets invited and who doesn't.
Right. So it's not my personal channel. It's just that it's the channel that I use mostly for a lot of my personal Discord stuff. So there you go.
He said, I'm a student at University of Illinois, and I want you to know I'm a humanist. Well, I didn't know what a humanist was, so I said, does that mean you believe in humans? He said, well, I do believe in humans, but no, that's not what that means.
It was a joke. Oh my goodness, yeah.
And I almost cracked a smile at that.
I just thought it was Kent Hovind admitting to have been an idiot even when he was young.
Even Michael Scott knows what a secular humanist is.
That's true, he does. And that's a better joke than the one Kent Hovind.
Scene. Oh yeah.
Is it deleted? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe not. I think so. But
he said, I said, well, do you believe the Bible? He said, well, the Bible's a good book, but it has lots of errors. Now, I had only been saved for a few months. But I was smart enough to know, because my preacher told me, if anybody ever says the Bible's full of errors, hand him your Bible and say, show me one. So I handed him my Bible and says, well, show me one. He said, I'll be glad to. Here's what he showed me. Genesis chapter 1. The Bible says pretty clearly in chapter 1, the earth brought forth grass and herb-yielding seed and fruit trees. This happened on the third day. The counselor said, Kent, when did God make the trees? I said, day 3. He said, all right. Verse 20, day 5. Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth. He said, Kent, when did God make the birds? I said, day 5. He said, what did he make the birds out of? I said, well, it looks like he made them out of the water. Correct. You know, he made Adam out of the dirt, made Eve out of a rib, made the birds out of the water. That's what it says, okay? Verse 24. Let the earth bring forth the living creature. He said, now, Kent, what did God make the creatures out of? I said, he made them out of the earth, he made the birds out of the water, made the animals out of the dirt. And then he made man. He said, that's chapter 1. Now look at chapter 2. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And the Lord God made grow every tree. He said, wait. I thought the trees were made on day 3 and man on day 6. Here we have the man made and then the trees after man, which is correct. Were the trees made before man or after man? Have you ever been in an argument with somebody and you knew you're losing? You married guys know about that.
I know Kent has been in that kind of situation. What he does is he says, why don't you describe for the audience what you think you mean? Or, I'm not prepared for that. Or, it's been a long time since I studied that. That's what Kent does when he's in that situation. So, I know Kent has been in that situation before.
Gee, I don't know. Interesting question. I'd have to do some research on that.
Exactly. I will say he does come up with relatively creative new ways to wiggle out of such situations each time. That's why he doesn't say, I'm not prepared for that anymore, because he knows how badly that looked. It's also why he doesn't really say, oh, that's an interesting question. Why don't you explain that for the audience, because I don't think they know. He doesn't say that anymore either.
Just know, I'm losing this argument. Okay, you might as well stop right now, all right? You might as well just quit. Verse 18. The Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him and help meet for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air. Oh, here we got 2 problems. You got the animals made after man, and you got the birds made after man, and the birds are made out of the ground instead of out of the water.
I will actually say that I think the animals thing with the fowl being made out of the ground is a bigger problem than the tree thing, because in the narrative it says that God planted a garden, so it's not unreasonable to suppose that there were other plants around, and that's why this is being called a particular garden. But there's no indication in Genesis 2 that this is not the initial creation of the animals. So while I don't think you can make a good case that the plant part is contradictory, I actually do think you can make a decent case for the animals. But let's see where Kent goes with it.
He said, Kent, the Bible's a good book, but it's got lots of contradictions. Just in the first 2 chapters. Did the chapter 1 say the grass plants trees made on day 3? Chapter 2 has plants and trees made after man on day 6. Chapter 1 has birds made out of the water on day 5. Chapter 2 has birds made out of the ground on day 6. Chapter 1 has animals made before man. Chapter 2 has animals made after man. He said, the Bible's a good book, but it's not God's Word. I'd only been saved a couple of months, and I was crushed in my faith. It seems to happen to every young Christian. Satan sends somebody along to destroy their faith and get them derailed. Well, that got me, I tell you what. The rest of that week at camp, I was a defeated young Christian. Well, I wish I could find that guy today. I can answer his question now, okay? Here's what happened. On the 3rd day, God made the plants, okay? Grass, plants, trees. On the 5th day, He made the birds out of the water. On the 6th day, He made the animals, and then He made man, and then He made the garden and put the man in the garden.
Okay.
Now, all of chapter 2 is describing what happened in the garden only. It's not describing the whole world. God made more trees.
Yeah, see, the thing is that that's not what it says, though, Kent. I can agree that it says that God planted a garden there, and then, okay, fine, that explains the discrepancy with the plants, but it's not what it says about the animals. So, I think you're reading into the text something that isn't there, but what do I know?
And it's only the 2 kinds, the trees that are good for food and the trees that are good to the sight. Beautiful garden. The rest of the world's already full of trees. He's describing what happened in the garden. And then He made 1 more of each animal so that Adam could name them and select a wife.
See, yeah, that's the thing, though. It doesn't say that, does it, Kent? It says He formed the animals and the fowl out of the ground. And then later it describes them being brought forth to Adam to name them.
Whoops, Kent.
Yeah, so I'm just going to take a quick drink because now Kent is just adding stuff to the Bible that isn't there.
That's against the rules of the Bible.
Yeah.
And so while Adam's standing there, up out of the ground is coming 1 more of each animal. Now the rest of the world's already full of animals. This is just for Adam to see God do it and to make a wife, and to create a wife, to select a wife. Up comes a giraffe.
So what I'm getting also is that God is in principle A-okay with bestiality, according to Kent Hovind.
Yeah, Adam wasn't, but God was.
Right. Adam was like, "Ooh, I don't know, man, I'm not into that." But God was like, "No, man, it's fine. Just pick that horse over there, it's fine." Adam's still like, not super into it. So, yeah, God A-okay with bestiality. Adam, little less so. So there you go. I guess God's really kinky?
Probably.
I guess. Maybe that's what hell is. It's actually his little kink dungeon.
Maybe.
But it's like way too kinky for all the humans because
But
God's
it's like on an
super into
aircraft
it.
carrier,
Oh goodness, no.
and you can never leave.
All right, we're heading way out of the PG-13 realm if we keep going. So I'm gonna keep going.
Giraffe, he says giraffe, no thanks. Hippopotamus, no thanks. Elephant, no thanks. Hamster, no thanks. One by one, Adam names all the animals and rejects them as a wife. And then the Lord says, Adam, go to sleep, son. I've got a surprise for you when you wake up. Put Adam.
Surprise! It's involuntary surgery. Yay! What are the medical ethics behind involuntary surgery, Bent?
They're unethical.
Okay, so what we're saying is that if we take this story as a literal story about how God created the world, it might not look all that great for God, and maybe we shouldn't take it that way, because apparently now God is into unethical medical practices and bestiality.
Unlike Kent, God is not a doctor. Wait, is Kent actually a doctor?
No, he's not.
Well, God never claimed to be a doctor like Kent does.
That's a good point. I don't know of anywhere in the Bible where God says that he's a doctor. Although I guess Jesus is called the physician of the soul. That sounds like more of like a sort of thing you just kind of say, like, oh, I'm the physician of the soul, like rather than him claiming a degree that he doesn't have.
Jesus tended to care a lot less about stupid human problems and care more about, like, hey, I don't care about what you do with your taxes, or I don't care about your sickness or whatever. Just follow God. That's all that matters. I don't care about your possessions. Get rid of him. Give the money away.
But don't follow
God.
Don't follow God in terms of his literal stance from Genesis 2 on involuntary surgery and organ harvesting.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Let's not worry about that.
Right. Let's maybe not take that as the super literal truth as to what should be the way you follow God. What I'm saying is, don't operate on people without their informed consent and unless you actually are a doctor.
Oh, God put a tent in the garden and then filled it with green chili and told Dapper not to eat?
Oh no! Oh, I'm done. I'm gonna eat the green chili.
That is hell.
Basically. Look, have you ever been to New Mexico, Ben?
I've driven through it.
Have you ever stopped there to get a bite?
Yep.
Okay.
I got green chili.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, green chili, I'm getting that. It was good.
It's really good. If you're ever in New Mexico, get the green chili. Because red chili is the same chili you're going to get everywhere else. The green chili is where it's at. Now, granted, if I've been in New Mexico for like weeks on end and I just want to change a pace, sometimes I'll get the red chili. But not most of the time.
Went to sleep, took one rib, and made the world's first loudspeaker. The world's first woman. Okay.
Right.
And so this.
Yeah. Also, T. Lane says the only DMs in hell are the ones that railroad the players, and all the players play edgelords. Oh, man, that does sound like DM hell. It's just general D&D hell. All railroad DMs and all edgelord players. Oof. All right, Eric Virathaler for $4.99 US says, I was supposed to debate Kent again on Thursday, but he bailed yet again. I'm done with debating him. Man, I was actually surprised that you had set up another one. Honestly, there's just no point in trying anymore at this point. Yeah. And Monk Mayfair says that was just a joke. I'm not even sure which one was part of a joke, but that's okay. All right.
the sexist joke that Kent said. Yeah, it was a joke.
Oh, he said a sexist joke? I didn't even notice it.
Well, he called the wife a loudspeaker. Called Eve the first loudspeaker.
Oh,
because women.
Okay, he does those. The whole women.
All women do is nag, right, Kent?
Man, I just I'll be honest. I kind of tuned Kent out a little bit because I was reading some chat.
Oh, well, that's why I drank, because that was a joke that no one but Kent laughed at.
Oh, yeah.
Because almost like people there aren't sexist except for Kent, maybe.
Now, I'll say, okay, look, there are, on average, behavioral differences between men and women, but And yeah, women are actually tend to be better at verbal communication than men on average. But like turning that into, oh, women just complain all the time. It's just like, not only is it wrong, it's just stupid and unnecessarily sexist. And I get that maybe your audience is into that, but
I don't think they are, though. I really don't think the audience, maybe to more degree than like people in this chat would be, but not nearly to the level of Kent is.
I'm not even convinced there's actually.
I don't think so.
I'm not actually even convinced that there's an audience for this. I know that sometimes they cut back to a crowd scene.
Well, then who's asking him the questions?
But that's the thing. He said at the beginning of this that no one was asking him these questions. These were just questions that he said he got. So I don't actually think there's an audience for this. I think he's just in whatever studio he had.
Yeah.
And they're cutting back to audiences that just weren't there, that were at other seminars of his, and they just have stock footage of it. Yeah, I actually think that. Because the other thing is, the place he's on doesn't look like a stage. It looks like a set. Right? Like, everything's too close to him. It looks like he's in a tiny little set, and not like he's on the stage of a church, which is where he gave a lot of the other parts of this seminar.
Is only describing what's happening in the garden. Now, it's interesting, if you look at the sequence here, Adam actually saw God create things. Eve never saw that.
According to you, Kent.
Suppose God had made Adam last. Satan could walk in and say, hey, Adam, how do you like this beautiful garden I made? And Adam would have doubts the rest of his life. Well, who really made this? I don't know. I trust you, God, but I don't know. There's no way he could know. Now,
I mean, God could have just at that point just been like, poof, hey, look, I made a dodo. Okay, bye. And then Satan comes up, and Adam can be like, hey, can you make a dodo? And Satan's like, yeah. And then Adam can just be like, okay, well, please do so. And then Satan can be like, I find your lack of faith disturbing. And then what? Like, this is not a real problem, Kent. It's not a real problem. But also, it does give me an excuse to use a Star Wars quote. So, from back when Star Wars was good. Oh, yeah, I know, controversial. I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogy. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
the fact is, Eve never saw God create anything.
So I will say, I liked Rogue One. I know you didn't. I did. I didn't think it was amazing. I thought it was good.
I'm not sure we can be friends anymore.
Look, I'm not saying it's like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I'm saying it's like a 6. It's an above average movie.
We've already established personally that we don't agree on all movies.
Right. I mean, for one thing, you don't realize what a great movie Tremors is.
I realize what type of movie Tremors is.
Great is the answer to that. Although you like Tremors 2 more than you like Tremors 1, which is baffling to me, but it is a good movie. Like, for me, Tremors is like an 8, and Tremors 2 is like a 7, maybe like a 6.75. And Tremors 3 is...
I don't know, maybe because you're a dinosaur, you look at things differently. Maybe because you're crazy, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Either way, I stand by.
T.D. Lane says that the sequel trilogy is boringly mediocre. Rogue One was good, and also Solo was alright. I actually disagree about the sequel trilogy. I think Godzilla. I think The Force Awakens was mediocre, and I think The Last Jedi was aggressively bad. Like, it was throwing it how bad it was in your face and trying to punch you with how terrible of a movie it was. But here we go. Oh, Godzilla again!
Who did Satan go to trick? Eve. The weaker vessel, 1 Timothy says. So, that's what happened.
Was that sexist, or is that adequately explained in the narrative?
Kent is explaining it in his narrative.
I'm gonna hold off a little bit, because Kent is often sexist, but it's usually just for a laugh, and I don't know to what degree he's actually sexist. Okay.
It's sexist.
Alright, yeah, fair enough.
The Bible doesn't say that the serpent went to Eve because she didn't witness the creation of these things, or because she's a weaker vessel, a woman. I mean, maybe it does. Maybe in the King James it does. I don't think it does, though. Yeah. I think Kent's trying to rationalize why he can be sexist.
Oh, and because it came up a bit in the chat, I must admit that I actually have not seen The Rise of Skywalker, because I just don't care. I stopped caring. I realized after I watched The Last Jedi, I don't care what happens to any of these characters anymore. And so I actually, I have access to my dad's iTunes account on my Apple TV, and he owns it. And he has done for, what, 3 months or something? For basically, he got it like the day after it was available. I haven't bothered to try. I just don't care. I don't want to waste that much time of my life watching it. So, yeah, I probably just won't watch it. Whatever. Also, someone said Back to Perfection was really good. That's Tremors 3. I didn't super like Tremors 3, mostly because I thought the Ass Blasters were an okay concept. I kind of hate the name. And
why?
I also...
Best part.
I kind of hate the name. I actually like the prequel one, where they go back and there's the Sand Dragons, and everyone plays, like, different roles. But it's, like, the same... They still have some of the same, like, stable of actors. I actually thought that one was very creative. It also let... what's that one guy who plays Earl? Or not Earl, what is it? The guy with all the guns, what's his name?
Michael Gross.
Yeah, it allows Michael Gross to play very much off-type, because he plays a somewhat cowardly businessman who's not the big gun-toting, like, you know, doomsday prepper guy. And he got to spread his acting chops, and I think he did a really good job in the prequel. So I actually like the prequel more than I like 3, which I believe is 4. So in my opinion, it goes 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6.
Information you will not get anywhere else.
Exactly. There you go. There's the Dapper Dino ranking of Tremors movies.
There are no contradictions in the Bible. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 are both fine. The Bible says in 1 Timothy, Adam was...
Yes, Burt Gummer. Sorry, I'm a little bit on the tipsy side, so there's been whiskey.
Can't imagine why.
I know.
First formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. Adam knew full well what he was doing. When she walked up and handed him that banana or whatever it was, say it's an apple, I don't know, we don't know, it's a fruit, okay? He said, oh, brother, Eve, you blew it. He looked at that and he knew if I don't become sin for her, God's going to have to kill her. I think Adam, knowing full well what he was doing, voluntarily took that fruit, ate it, and said, God, whatever you do to her, you got to do it to me too.
Cool,
Yeah.
So Adam ruined humanity on purpose. Awesome.
But the thing is, okay, not only is there that, but the Bible says that Adam saw that it was good to eat, and so he took a bite. The Bible literally says Adam was like, oh yeah, that looks good, and then he took a bite.
Yeah.
It, like, I'm gonna take is Kent getting the Bible wrong enough to take a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything he says is a lie or a sexist or all of the above.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, dude, you're the one who's claiming to take this narrative seriously. Maybe you should do so as a literal text, because that's not what it literally says.
That's what I think. Just like Jesus Christ voluntarily became sin for us so that he could save us.
Ooh, real quick. Hey, the image finished. So there you go. That's going to be up on the World Anvil like early tomorrow morning. Basically, when I wake up, the first thing I'm going to do is add this to the World Anvil. This is the 2K version, which is going to be up on the World Anvil. The 4K version, which is going to be in the video, as well as on Twitter, will be rendered overnight. So there you go. It's happening, everybody. Send the Ron Paul gif where it's happening. So there you go.
And we can become the bride of Christ. That'll preach. Okay, as a young Christian, I was reading my Bible and came across 2 Chronicles chapter 4. And it says, Solomon made a great sea of 10 cubits from brim to brim, and 5 cubits the height thereof, and a line of 30 cubits did compass it about. I read that, I set my Bible down on my bed, and I said, Lord, this is wrong. If it's 10 cubits across, it's not 30 cubits around. Anybody that studies mathematics knows to find the circumference of a circle, its diameter times pi, 3.14159.265. I said it should not be 30 cubits around, it should be 31.415.9 cubits around. Why did he say 30 cubits around? I thought there was an error in the Bible, and I was going to quit Christianity.
I'll be honest. Drink. I always thought that this was kind of a silly objection. It's like the Bible isn't allowed to round. And Kent, I'm pretty sure, because I've heard Kent address this before, so I'm pretty sure that Kent is going to go with something about like the interior diameter versus the exterior diameter and all this crap. And it's like, you could just say the Bible gets to round like everyone else does. Like, that's literally all you have to do.
Yeah, but the Bible is supposed to be scientifically accurate according to Kent, so...
but rounding isn't... You know what happens in science?
There's rounding?
Yeah, rounding is a thing that happens in science. You're allowed to round.
I don't think Kent would buy that, because otherwise he would just say that.
I just hate... Because the thing is, I haven't watched this video in particular, but I know where he's going to go with it, because I've seen him go there before. And it's like, you could just say the Bible gets to round like everyone else does, Kent. That's all you have to do. And
I mean, cubits are like, what, inner elbow to fingertip, right?
I thought they were outer elbow to fingertip.
It might be, but it's different for every person.
Yeah, there's that too. It's just... well, let's see where Kent goes with it, because it'll probably be silly.
And I read the passage and read it and read it and read it and said, wait a minute, wait, I'm missing something here. Verse 5 says it was a handbreadth thick. That's a lot of brass, that thick. And the brim of it was like the work of the brim of a cup. There are two...
Oh, and Robert Adsit points out that he routinely rounds pi to 3. I mean, 3.1 versus 3, it's depending on how precise you need to be, it's not that bad of a rounding error.
Two theories of how to solve this supposed contradiction. One theory says it was 10 cubits outside to outside, not counting the thickness of the brass. Now that'll work. If you take 10 cubits, elbow to fingertip,
there you go.
Subtract 2 handbreadths, and calculate backwards, you get a value of pi for the inner circumference of 3.14159. It'll work fine. You can give it a try. The other theory is that it says it had a brim like a cup. The bowl went up and had a brim coming out, so it's 30 cubits around the bowl, but 10 cubits across brim to brim, counting the little lip sticking out, like most cups are bent out just a little bit. Either theory would probably solve the problem. No, there are no contradictions. So 1 Kings says, Solomon made this mold.
But see, that's the thing. It's like you could just also just say, it's rounding errors. Like, in the story where Jesus feeds the 5,000 or the 10,000, like, is there anyone who honestly thinks that it was 5,000 on the dot? And if it's not, that means the Bible was being inaccurate in the story. Like, even people who were like, "Oh no, we had to take the Bible literally." Like, who took the head count?
Yeah,
did
you counted exactly 5,000 people,
right?
Plus men, plus women and children.
Right. So there were 5,000 men. Did someone go and count and be like, "Oh, gee, we got to exactly 5,000. That's convenient." No, it's like when the police estimate like a crowd at a protest or something. They're like, "Oh, we think there's approximately 1,200 people here." They just kind of give it a go. They're like, it's about this many. That's fine. And the thing is, that's all you have to do, Kent. You could just be like, it's fine. It's about 30. But no, you got to come up with elaborate theories about if we divide this number by this number, or if there's a cup just stop, Kent. You don't have to.
Sea that held 2,000 baths. A bath is about 8 gallons. Yet 2 Chronicles says it held 3,000 baths.
And for $2 from Van Nally 1998, we have, well, the ark isn't a circle shape anyway, that's true. And a Mothra emoji, so drink for the Mothra emoji from a member.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that I do appreciate that I made sure to actually alpha mask the Mothra emoji, because at first I was like, it's fine with just a white background. And I was like, no, because it won't show up against, super chats and whatnot. And, yeah, I'm glad I was not lazy on that one.
Well, was it 2,000 baths or 3,000 baths? By the way, 3,000 baths, 24,000 gallons, is a small to mid-sized swimming pool. Okay, it's the kind you put in your backyard. That's a 24,000 gallon pool. That's a lot of water, or oil, or whatever they're going to put in this thing. Well, 2 Chronicles says it held 3,000 baths. 1 Kings says it contained 2,000 baths. Is that a contradiction? No, it's not full. It's 2/3 full, okay? It could hold 3,000, but it's only got 2,000 in it.
You know what? I'll just take a drink, because I'm like, sure, that's a fine way to interpret that. I don't really object. Because the thing is, yeah, okay. Some of the things that people are like, oh, look, this sounds like a contradiction. I'm like, does it, though? Or are you just being needlessly obtuse? Because sometimes people are just being needlessly obtuse. how many bats it had, and I actually think Kent's interpretation there is a perfectly fine one.
How many horses did Solomon have? This is a contradiction the atheists always bring up. 1 Kings says, Solomon...
Is it a contradiction the atheists always bring up, though? Because I am not sure about that. Look, I don't read a whole lot of, like, anti-Christian atheist literature, because I just don't care. But from what I'm familiar with, this is not a thing that a lot of people just bring up all the time. But, what do I know? And for $4.99 from Eric Virathaler 92, are you a fan of the Batman movies, and who's your favorite Batman actor? Mine is Michael Keaton. So I liked Michael Keaton. I also really like the recent Dark Knight trilogy, although I'm a little disappointed that DC is trying to go away from the Caped Crusader moniker for Batman. Basically to say, oh, we don't want to associate ourselves with the Crusaders. It's like, well, do you have a better group of people from the or from like the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries that were warriors? Because they all kind of sucked, but the Caped Crusader was nice and alliterated, but whatever. But anyway, I also like that. I don't know who my favorite Batman actor is. I think they had various strengths and weaknesses. I gotta say though, I didn't see who's the Batman actor from.
As long as you don't say George Clooney.
Yeah, George Clooney didn't do it. It wasn't.
Yeah. Val Kilmer wasn't great either.
He was better than George Clooney. Yeah. Was he? Yeah, it might be. It might actually be Michael Keaton. He might be my favorite. Who's tapped to be the next Batman?
I don't care, but for the purposes of this video, I don't know.
So someone else was going to be Batman, and it was a weird choice.
Was it Ben Affleck?
No, he was already Batman, and I didn't see any of the movies where he was Batman.
I mean, I don't. What you said about like giving up on Star Wars movies, I've done that a long time ago with most movies.
Well, so I watched Man of Steel, and while I didn't hate it, I didn't care. And then I just didn't watch Batman v Superman, which Robert Pattinson. Yeah, that is the next one who's tagged. It's an odd choice, but
Really?
Oh, you know what? Hold on a second. Yeah, he's tagged to be the next Batman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No?
I probably did actually, but that's hilarious. I don't know why.
Okay, who's my favorite Batman actor? Will Arnett.
Michael Keaton.
No, Will Arnett.
Will Arnett.
Best Batman. He's the Batman from the Lego movies.
There you go.
I don't know that he's actually my favorite Batman actor, but he actually is surprisingly good in those movies, which by themselves are surprisingly good, just because they're movies that are basically just, 2-hour commercials, and yet they're surprisingly good. Like, go watch the Lego movies, guys. They're, like, weirdly compelling.
After this stream, go watch the Lego movie.
Well, only if Benthoven refuses to stream,
I got stuff I gotta do.
What, sleep?
Other things before sleep.
Watch Star Trek?
See those weights over there? I was supposed to do a bunch this morning. I only did a little bit. I gotta finish it up.
All right, fair enough.
Solomon had 14.
Oh, and T. Lane says, "You're all fools. It was Adam West." I mean, do you remember when Batman used to dance? That was when Adam West was Batman.
I don't remember him dancing, but
you know what? F's in the chat for Adam West. Rest in peace, Adam.
Adam Wee. I did think of that because I know Bob likes that.
50,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. 2 Chronicles says Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots and 12,000 horsemen. Well, which is it, 40,000 or 4,000? Now, we sell on our website the Defender's Bible by Henry Morris. I love Henry Morris and the Defender's Bible. He's a good personal friend of mine, and his son John Morris, good friend of mine. Love what they're doing. In the Defender's Bible, he's got a footnote right here that says this is a copyist error.
I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense, Kent, but I'm sure that you're about to say something stupid about it.
He says this number is given as 4,000 in 2 Chronicles. This is best explained as a copyist error. Well, I read that, and I wrote a letter to Henry Morris and said, brother, I love you, I sell your Bible, but I'm going to have to put a disclaimer in the front page. You have a mistake. Actually, quite a few mistakes in your footnotes. And so I have a one-page disclaimer that goes with our Defender's Bible that we sell. They've got a stack up in shipping if you want to read it. That says, we love Henry Morris. He's got many good notes in here, but like anything, you got to eat the meat and spit out the bones. He's wrong about this one. There is not a copyist error. Both of those verses are absolutely fine. Read them carefully. Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots. Does that tell me how many chariots he had? No. That tells me how many horses he had for the chariots, right? For 2 Chronicles. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots. Oh, no, that's different.
Okay, but here's the thing. You don't usually put chariots in a stall. So, okay, here's what a stall is. It's basically a storage room for a horse. In it, you know, you have some hay, you have enough room for the horse to stand up, because horses can sleep standing. They don't always like to. Horses actually do sometimes like to lay down to sleep, but whatever. Doesn't matter. But, like, you don't need a stall for chariots. You could just put them all in a big room or whatever. So, no, it's not a good... This is where Kent would be better off just saying, you know what? Copyist errors happen. And also, yeah, Monk Mayfair points out... Monk Mayfair points out 10 horses per chariot. Yeah, no, that's also ridiculous. 4 is basically the maximum that you get, and 2 is more typical. So yeah, it's a weird... I'm gonna drink, because it's a stupid way to harmonize those verses.
Apparently he had stalls to keep the horses and chariots, and he had other stalls just for the horses for the chariots.
Wait, so there were stalls with horses already still attached to their chariots, and then there were other stalls for just horses? I'm drinking. And no, Bob Knob, I did not forget that the stalls have poo in them. It's just that you don't put the poo in there. The horses do. They take care of that on their own. Barns are mostly poo. They don't have to be. You could have an empty barn.
Well, if they had 40,000 stalls of horses for the chariots, and he had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, they had 10 horses per stall. 10 horses per chariot, I'm sorry.
But no, Kent. No one had 10 freaking horses for chariots. The reason you multiply horses is because the load is heavy. They don't get to run faster because you put 10 of them there. They just get less strained a slight bit. Like, you're going to get diminishing returns. No one had 10 horse chariots. That's just insane. Do you know how wide that chariot would be? How big of a turn arc it would have to have? That's just crazy, and I'm taking a drink for it.
Not a contradiction at all. King James got it exactly correct. 10 horses per chariot. They would never put 1 horse per chariot. I mean, 1 arrow takes out the whole tank.
Yeah, but Kent, if you kill one of the horses in your 10-horse chariot, it's gonna basically take out the whole thing anyway, because it's gonna like get in the way of the other horses on that side. That's why 2 to 4 is the number.
They had chariot teams, actually. NIV got it wrong. New American Standard got it right. I collect other Bible versions. I got a bunch of them here.
Yeah, as Robert Adson points out, well, that's a hard-to-maneuver chariot. Yeah, you would have a gigantic turn radius. That is like the worst chariot design imaginable. Maybe God was just like, you know what? Haha, I'm going to troll you by making you use 10-horse chariots because I'm a dick. Like,
New Revised Standard got it wrong. How many men did David kill? 700 or 7,000? Well, look at the passages carefully. The Syrians fled before Israel, and David slew the men of 700 chariots of the Syrians. 1 Chronicles. David slew of the Syrians 7,000 men which fought in chariots. Well, which is it? 700 or 7,000? Read it carefully. Again, Henry Morris has a footnote here that says this is a copyist error. No, I'm sorry, Henry, it is not a copyist error. Both verses are fine. Look at them carefully. If he slew the men of 700 chariots, and he slew 7,000 men which fought in chariots, what does that mean?
You think there were 10 people per chariot and 10 horses per chariot, Kent? Oh my goodness, no. Okay, look. Here's a typical Bronze Age chariot, right? 2 horses, 1 chariot, 3 people. 1 is a chariot driver, 1 is an archer and or fighter, and another is a support guy who helps the fighter / archer do things like get arrows or weapons or, basically do support roles, right? If you killed all the people fighting in 10 chariots, you probably killed 30 humans and 20 horses. Now, we can expand to a 4-horse chariot, which was not unheard of, but it wasn't common, right? Okay, kill 10 chariots worth of people and horses, you kill 4 horses, and you still kill 30 people. Those are the typical numbers. There is no reason to put 10 freaking people in 1 chariot. Split them up, get rid of 1 of them, and turn them into 3 chariots. And now you have independent vehicles that can go in different areas, kill different groups of people, crash into people at different areas. Wasting your manpower and your building material and your horses on a 10-horse, 10-person chariot is just insane. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. They're just, no. They did not have 10-man chariots. That is just beyond stupid.
10 men per chariot.
No!
They had 10 men and 10 horses. They had chariot teams.
I forgot to say,
you fight for a while, you come back, you swap out. See, the chariot does not get tired.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, so that's his excuse, is that the chariot comes out and changes who's on it. But here's the thing. If you kill everyone on the chariot, Kent, how's the chariot gonna get back to replenish its team? Riddle me that, Kent. Riddle me that. Because his answer is like, oh, there's chariot teams. So, you got 10 people assigned to a single chariot, even though you need multiples of 3. Who cares? Let's forget about that. Peach prices. Navy Dino knows about chariots. I mean, you're not wrong. And for $4.99, Eric Verthaler says, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson almost played Willy Wonka. Do you smell what Willy Wonka is cooking in the chocolate factory? I'm the chocolate factory. Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, but here's the thing, right? Okay, I'm King David, and I managed to use my army to take out a chariot. I've killed 3 people and 2 horses. Maybe 4 horses, depending, right? That chariot can't go back and get new people because all the people using it are dead. And each time you take out a chariot, you don't get to take out the entire team that was using it. That's not how this works, Kent. That's impossible. It's like, okay, so let's say it's a modern battlefield, right? Okay, so you send in your initial ground troops, right? But you have reserves. But let's say that your initial ground troops are actually an armored assault. So they're in APCs, armored personnel carriers, right? But your reserves don't actually have APCs. You're relying on some of the APCs returning to pick up your reserves and bring them out there. Okay. Well, if the APCs get destroyed, they can't come back and ferry in new troops. And the only way that you can kill more than the group of people that are carried in a single APC is if the people that are carried actually get off. So the only way for this to work is if the chariot teams just get off their chariot and start fighting as infantry. For no reason. Why would they do that? They're more effective as chariots, and you already presumably have infantry that you have trained as infantry. So nothing about this makes sense, Kent. You don't know how Bronze Age battles worked. I mean, not that there's any surprise. Like, is anyone surprised that Kent Hovind has no idea how Bronze Age battles worked? I'm not.
The men and horses get tired. And the chariot is your tank. You don't want to lose that thing. So somebody gets wounded, hurt, bring them back, swap out. They had chariot teams. NIV got it wrong. He killed 700 of their charioteers and 7,000 of their charioteers. There's a clear contradiction. Most of the New Bible versions that I'm aware of have some real serious contradictions built in. I'm not aware of any in the King James. The Bible says in Genesis 10, these are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues. So the languages are divided in chapter 10. But you read chapter 11, it says the whole earth was of one language. When I debated Farrell Till, who's the editor of an atheist magazine up in Illinois, He said, oh, the Bible's got a contradiction. Chapter 10 says the languages were divided up, and chapter 11 says the whole world's of one language. See, Bible's wrong. Farrell, chapter 11 is recapping like giving a headline. Suppose you saw the headlines in the paper, 10 children killed in school bus accident. Then you start reading the article, and it says, the bus was driving down Highway 12. You say, wait, I thought they had a wreck. Yeah, the headline is summarizing the story, and now they're going back and giving the details, okay? Chapter 10 summarizes the story, and chapter 11 is going through and giving some of the details. Not a contradiction. Here's another supposed contradiction. How many died in the plague? Numbers 25 says, those that died in the plague were 20 and 4,000. When you read the story in 1 Corinthians, it says there fell in one day 3 and 20,000. Well, which is it? 24,000 died in the plague, according to Numbers, or is it 23,000 died in the plague? Well, again, read it carefully. No contradiction. How many died in the plague? 24,000. How many died in one day? 23,000. Well,
okay, so are we imagining a plague where nearly all of the people who died in one day?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
That's apparently what we're going with. Sure, Ken. Why not? I'm just going to take a drink because I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
Well, 1,000 died the next day from the same plague. It's not a contradiction at all. So we go through in our college class.
But then that was it. That was the whole plague. Done.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Quite a few of the supposed contradictions in the Bible. If you think there are
2-day plague. I wish we were that lucky.
some, you can contact our office on our during our radio program. We have all kinds of time. We can take an hour-and-a-half question every day on supposed contradictions in the Bible or questions on creation or evolution.
All right, well, that's where that video actually ends, and which is convenient because we're basically at the end of the stream. So, yeah. So I want to give a few quick channel update things. So, as you guys saw, I just finished the image for the next creature to be added to the World Anvil for the Speculative Evolution Project. This Thursday is going to be the first video in a new series called Creationism is a Mega Catastrophe, all about creationist flood geology. It's probably going to end up being, I think, like 8-ish episodes, maybe? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't currently have something for Saturday. I do have some options. There's someone who might be interested in doing a Leaving Earth Creationism. I'm also in contact with James from Modern Day Debate about maybe doing a conversation with Mr. Batman and or Bill Morgan. Apparently Bill Morgan is not happy with James from Modern Day Debate. Funny how a lot of creationists and flat earthers get upset with James for having a basically neutral platform and then it doesn't show them off well. I know, it's weird, right? But the other thing I want to point out is that it does look like right now what we're going to do is second Tuesdays of the month, we're going to go with an Eric with Erica. And that will be starting, I can't guarantee it, but it's going to be earlier than Kent with Ben. Oh, take a drink. So it'll probably be starting sometime around like, I want to see if I can do something like, maybe like somewhere between like 3 and 5 Eastern. Is what I'm hoping for. And that is basically because those Tuesdays, there's too much going on. And also, I think Bent would appreciate every once in a while getting to just watch. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I like watching.
Okay. I'm also going to reach out to Landon sometime pretty soon and see if he would like to do another Landon with, or Lyle with Landon. So there's that. But basically, that's it. I'm not going to be streaming tonight. I'm on the tired side, and I want to, I just kind of want to relax for a bit. So sorry about that. I know that a lot of people, you know, like 5 people like to come watch me on Top Hats Off after I'm done with this. So, but that's not going to happen tonight. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I want to give a special thank you to all of our super chatters, because you guys really do help keep this channel afloat. Trying to make this as a thing that I can actually do as a... Basically, the reason I can give you guys 3 shows a week pretty consistently because right now I'm doing it full time. And support is what makes that a thing that might be possible for me to do in the long run. And everyone who super chats is part of that group of people who are supporting that and making that at least a potential possibility. So I want to give a special special shout out to Work in Progress, Corporal Anon, TD Lane, Dave Delafiore, Vandelli 1998, Eric Vierthaler 92, and that is it for our super chatters. So thank you very much for supporting the channel. It really, really does mean a lot. If you would like to support the channel on a more regular and less intermittent basis, there are channel memberships and the Patreon, both of which are linked. If you want to do a sort of a more quick thing where you get something tangible, there's the merch store. Or if you want, you can also check out the Amazon wishlist. All of those things are options. And if you can't do any of those or just don't want to, just watching, liking, and subscribing and sharing are really big helps. Last month was a bit rough on channel growth, but this month has been much, much better. Oh, and Josiah Hansen also got in here with a $2 super chat, which I can't quite see yet. But I also want to give a special thank you to Josiah Hansen, who says, here's to getting 3 new shows per day every day. Did I say 3 shows per day? I meant 3 per week. If I said 3 per day, then great. But Josiah Hansen, you're going to have to give me a lot more than $2 in order to get 3 shows a day.
If he thought you said 3 per day, you got to give him his money back.
Let me know, Josiah Hansen. So, thank you very much, everyone. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is, week. I don't care. I'll see you Thursday, and stay safe out there. Oh, and visit carperbagman.com.